Now, there's going to be two parts to this video. The first part is going to be a discussion about alien reproduction vehicles. The second part I'm going to save because it's a little sensitive, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure how I feel about it. But let's jump into the first part. Alien reproduction vehicles, right? It's the idea that basically we have captured these UFOs and then reverse engineered them and created our own crafts that are based on the technology of these otherworldly beings, right? And we've got our own UFOs, quote unquote, flying around. Well, they call them ARVs, or alien reproduction vehicles, right? And Danny Sheehan, who is the head counsel at the New Paradigm Institute, which is a nonprofit to sort of, help with UAP legislation and whistleblowers and, the UAP topic in general, right? He was recently on a podcast and brought up alien reproduction vehicles, and it turns out like Danny has changed his mind on whether or not they are real, right? So before he didn't think they were real. Now he's got a different story to tell.
One of the videos that you promoted in your newsletter had to do with something called ARVs, alien reproduction vehicles, and the implication was that these private corporations that the government has entrusted with captured UFOs have been able to create vehicles that simulate what the UFOs are like. And some of these supposedly have been capable of flying, capable of leaving the atmosphere, maybe even capable of traveling at close to light speeds. And when Jake Barber gave his lengthy interview, I had the impression that most of the work he was doing in the program was involving retrieving captured vehicles that were actually manufactured by humans, experimental vehicles that might crash.
I think that's true. I think that is true. They have a range. He talks about working on the range where they're going out to retrieve these things if they fall down. That's a very specific, restricted kind of activity that they're engaged in.
Now, I'm actually a little hard of hearing, but I think I just heard these two basically say that the UFOs that Jake Barber has been retrieving when he was part of the crash retrieval programs for advanced aerospace tech companies, or whoever he did it for, I guess, weren't, ET craft. They were retrieving alien reproduction vehicles, meaning man-made vehicles. Right? That's interesting because I don't think that's been said before. I got to be honest. Someone let me know in the comments, but I'm pretty sure this is new information here, right? And you might think, well, what's the big deal, Patrick? Well, if you think about it for a second, if that's the case, then are the crafts that they're summoning, right? Are those also reproduction vehicles? Right? Because those were also egg-shaped. They retrieved egg-shaped craft. They also retrieved, right? And then they summoned craft. But then if they're alien reproduction vehicles, why did Jake Barber say in his interview that the craft he recovered, he was told years later by leaders or members of the UAP task force, right, that it was non-human, right? So did they just mean like non-human engineered? Does that make sense? Like if these are alien reproduction vehicles, right? They're vehicles built off of other craft. I don't know. This is very confusing. It just calls into question, like, what exactly were the type of vehicles? If you say this is a non-human craft, are you implying, is that the same thing is that the same description for an alien reproduction vehicle? Would they say, right, does that mean the same thing? Right? If they say non-human craft, can that mean alien craft and alien reproduction vehicle? I hope not, because one is man-made. Granted, they're claiming that it's man-made off of alien technology, but the other one is clearly man has nothing to do with it. So I don't think they should be in the same. And I can't tell if that's what's happening.
And then I've had long discussions for the 20 years that I was general counsel for the Disclosure Project with Stephen Greer. Dr. Greer had been trying to tell people for decades that, look, you're wrong if you think that they haven't been able to make some breakthroughs in looking at this technology, that some significant number of the craft that you see running around are not, in fact, extraterrestrial. They're human, that we have succeeded in doing some and capturing some of the technology, and that they've generated some of these vehicles now. And I've come to understand that that's true.
You see, because before, I don't know if I ever heard Danny talk about it. Now, he did work with Dr. Stephen Greer for a long time, and that is something that Dr. Stephen Greer has said for a long time, right, about these alien reproduction vehicles, right? And it sounds like they're confirming it in the UFO community now, right? Like all sides, everyone's kind of jumping on board with this is a real thing. We have alien reproduction vehicles. Because if that is true, then that means we have the alien vehicles, right? We have the UFOs. But now it becomes real confusing of how to tell them apart.
I at the very beginning, I was being told, oh no, they don't really know how to handle this. They can't, their consciousness can't function. They can't make the machines work or anything like that. It's clear that they've jury rigged, I think, some of the technology, and so that they can operate it more or less like a prosaic vehicle, even though it has some extraordinary capacities. Now, the other problem is, of course, that the fact that these vehicles are run by telepathic communication on the part of the pilot, that they were in fact having substantial difficulties in having the trained pilots that they have in the Air Force, for example, and in the Navy, that somehow they weren't capable of the kind of consciousness that was necessary to communicate and navigate these craft. And so what they did is they went out and they started trying to recruit people. As you point out, that they've actually gone and tried to find children who demonstrate these kind of psychic capabilities, and that they began a sub-program of psionics.
And let me welcome you to part 2. This is the sensitive part. Why? Because it involves children, and, I don't have kids, but I have nephews, and, it just feels icky. Just feels kind of icky, and I don't like it, and yeah, I don't know really what more to say about it, right? It's kind of like despicable in a sense. I don't know, just like, why are we involving kids? Let's take care of it without it. Well, but then, we may not get disclosure. Who cares then, right? Again, we lose our humanity in our search to further expand our humanity. Is not a good idea, in my opinion. And if we need children to do it, why? That doesn't make any. We should be rejecting all of that and moving forward without that, right? It's like, this is crazy. So anyway, right. Danny's going to start talking about this, and to be honest with you, he doesn't agree with this either.
This entire effort to try to gear up people who have these capabilities and recruit them to actually be pilots for these craft, and so that they could bring down the actual ET craft themselves, not a mock-up of them or not something that's like them, but the actual craft themselves, and have young children be trained over years to learn how to fly these things because of the high levels of consciousness and psychic abilities that they've had. Now, I'm not at liberty to go into some of the details about this because the means by which I've acquired this information puts certain people at risk of revealing who they are. But there have been some very substantial there's been some very substantial misconduct involved in working with these children and trying to train them to fly these craft. And there have been some substantial misconduct with regard to the way they've treated the occupants of these craft, to the point of capturing them, killing them, subjecting them to all kinds of coercive activities. And our New Paradigm Institute is working with people in the Justice Department. Now, the Federal Justice Department, to try to bring about a major investigation to determine what some of those activities have been, so that we can purge those activities from the present system that they're working with.
Again, I think we can figure out a better way than to get children involved to fly these craft. I mean, again, what are we talking about, right? This is so just ludicrous, if I'm being honest, right? Like, I even if it's like, I don't like the idea, shouldn't be doing it. If it's true, stop. If it's not true, it's just crazy to talk about. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of, I don't know. But involving them, it just, who cares if they have better levels of consciousness? Let's figure out another way. Even if they're best for it, let's figure out another way. And when Danny says like that he can't reveal his sources and, you know, basically there, right? Like who kind of told him that stuff. I mean, this is out already, right? Michael Herrera has talked about this, Stephen Greer, Jake Barber, right? It's all these part of these psionic asset programs and, you know, this is all part of the same thing, right? These black site programs or whatever, you know, that's going on that they're using to connect to craft. It gets even stranger, right? If you didn't think it could get stranger, it does, right? What Danny's about to reveal here, right, allegedly, I couldn't believe.
This is a challenge. The program began by trying to find younger children here inside the United States who were actually, interestingly, children of people in the military and in the intelligence community. They were trying to keep it in the family because of the security of the programs. And so that they were approaching the people that were involved in our military and in our intelligence community when they had children that seemed to be particularly gifted in this area. And they recruited them to come into the program and provide special training and stuff for them. And then it began apparently to expand out beyond that to other people in the United States, because they had some sense that if they confined their program to just people inside the United States, that it would be harder for the Chinese and Russians to realize we were doing it. So, a little naive, in my opinion.
Yeah, considering, you know, other people live, well, yeah, because people live here from all over the world, right? America's quite literally the biggest melting pot in the world of people from different countries, right? So, yeah, very naive. But, you know, there we go. Military children being brought in, right? So the military looks inward, starts just getting their own kids involved, but then they expand it to America. Does that mean they remove the military kids? Why would you do that? What military person would be like, yeah, sign up their kid for a secret government project like that? I mean, that sounds insane, right? Who are these military people that would give up their kids like that, right? This sounds crazy. It makes more sense and I guess more cinematic that they would be like taking adopted kids or, you know, kids with no homes from foster homes or something. But like military parents are just like, yeah, take my kid. Yeah, I got two of them. I mean, this is crazy. I hope this is not true. Right? This is all allegedly. Danny seems to think it is true and that he has evidence and, or at least whoever he's spoken to has led him to believe that, whatever the case may be. But I really hope it's not, you know, I really hope this is not the case because this sounds just ludicrous. All right, y'all, hope you enjoyed today's video. I'll put a link in the description so you can check out that full interview with Danny. We'll see you guys on the next one, Vetters. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.